Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. We are now a couple of weeks removed from the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct, and we are now learning about the games and the system itself, all while this tariff nonsense that we covered last week continues to fluctuate back and forth in a way that is nearly impossible to keep up with. However, we got our third Nintendo Direct in 4 weeks, this time completely focused on Mario Kart World. So that is going to be our focus for this episode. And joining me for this episode is someone I have wanted to have on this show a very long time. He is the senior social commerce producer at IGN and the former longtime host of the Nintendo Voice Chat podcast. It is my good buddy, Seth Macy. Seth, how's it going?
It's going great, man. I'm so glad to be here. I really appreciate it. And I'm very excited to talk about Nintendo and video games.
Yeah, you've made a bit of a name for yourself talking about Nintendo. So, it's good to finally have you on the show. We've had your colleague Logan on the show several times. Now
host.
He's kind of slid into your role as you backed away from Nintendo Voice Chat a little bit.
Yeah, he was my first choice. I had to take some time off. My wife was going through some health stuff, and I said, I think Logan would be perfect to fill in while I was out. And then when I came back, it was all kind of like I kind of thought that Logan would be the best host when he sort of joined IGN full time and was on the cast. And he's like so knowledgeable and he's so smart and he's just really good. And so for a long time, I was like, man, I think Logan might be the move. And I got back and I said, I think I talked to the producers in charge, and I said, I think Logan might actually be the right host for this show now as we go into the Switch 2 era. And I think, not to pat myself on the back, but I think I was right because Logan rules. Yeah, he's awesome. And I'm really excited for what the fans are calling the plant era.
Yes, it is very much the plant era, both on NVC and All Things Nintendo. I already have some plans for his next appearance in motion already. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. But, how long were you the host of NVC?
Who would know, Logan? I don't actually remember. It's crazy because it all sort of happened during the pandemic. I was one of like 2 work from home remote people at IGN back then. And then of course everybody switched to remote. And so all our shows switched to remote. And then I got the opportunity to be on some of our shows. We were doing this thing. It was basically like kind of Funny Games Daily, but like IGN's version of that. It's not around anymore. And they asked me to be on. And then one day they asked me to like be the host. And I was like terrified, but I also was like, I really want to like host stuff on video. So I was like, yes. I'm sure the video's out there. I'm sure it's horrible, but eventually they asked me to step in when Casey moved her schedule around. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, like, let's go. And I think that was maybe 2021 or 2022. I'm not exactly sure. I should know this, but I don't. So I'm sorry.
Well, you were my big time rival for a while there.
That's
with,
true.
Nintendo Voice Chat and All Things Nintendo kind of going head to head. The timelines overlapped a pretty significant degree. This show started in October 2021. So, not too far from you taking over hosting duties there.
Well, I'm glad we could have a peace accord and come together.
We set our differences aside.
Yeah, we have so many differences. We both love Nintendo and love to talk about Nintendo. So we finally put those behind us, those hurt feelings, and now we can come together.
So outside of playing Flight Simulator, I'm assuming like 16 hours a day. What are you getting up to over at IGN these days?
Well, like you said, I'm the senior social commerce producer, which is a completely new role that I took on, I think, in July. If you go to like IGN Deals, that's me. So on X, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, I run 5 separate social media accounts for the IGN Deals, which is the commerce team. It's basically like what everybody knows who Wario 64 is. It's like that, but it's me instead of Wario 64. And it's that's kind of the big thing I do, but I'm also doing more video hosting, which I love. And I'm going to be the MC for IGN Live again this year in Los Angeles. If you want to be there, it's June 7th and 8th. Oh no, I should know this, but
so
it's
kind of around Summer Game Fest time.
Yeah, I think it overlaps. And so if you guys want to come out, like go to IGN.com and you can get tickets right now. Early bird tickets are like $15, I think, for one day or both days. But last year was so much fun, and it was also terrifying because we'd never done it before. And like literally, I'm on stage, like I'm the host. Like when the crowds come in, and we didn't know if anybody was going to show up. This is like some insider baseball stuff. Like we just didn't know. And then the DJ Eveready, who was up on stage with me, he came back in. He had like peeked out. He's like, bro, they're lined up out the building. And they opened the doors and that room just filled up, and it was so fun. We did it 3 days last year. We're doing it 2 days this year, which I'm fine with. As much fun as it was, by day like 2 3/4, I could barely speak. And then I had a whole nother day of just screaming and yelling, but it was so fun. The energy was so amazing. We get to meet it kind of any cynicism that I might have started to gain just from like online negativity and, people who comment and say mean stuff, that evaporated when I started meeting like people who came to our show face to face. It was so fun. They were so psyched on just like IGN and video games, and on me, which I really enjoyed a lot. And yeah, that was absolutely an unbelievable experience. And then Phil Spencer even was like, wow. He was on stage and everyone was just losing their minds, and he's like, you guys have a lot of energy. This is incredible. So we're like, yeah.
That's a very good Phil Spencer voice that you're doing there.
Oh, thank you.
You got his mannerisms down perfectly.
Yeah, I could do voices. I just slip in and out of them without realizing it. So
well, apologies to anybody who is listening to this and they're hearing the rumbling in the background. There's actually, right before we jumped on to record, a torrential downpour with thunderstorm started outside my window. So apologies in advance if that is disrupting to your listening speed, or maybe you're listening to it on headphones and it's amazing. I don't know how ASMR works, but like,
true.
Maybe that's something good. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really stoked to have you on here, Seth. We're going to jump into some news in just a moment. But right off the bat, I do want to acknowledge something about last week's episode. We kind of got into a bit of a different place with our in-depth discussion about tariffs, which, is inherently political. And I did get some people writing in disagreeing with certain points, or pointing out that, like, inflation has actually slowed down in recent months despite other economic issues. But it was all done quite respectfully, and which in today's political climate, particularly for a show that doesn't typically discuss world events the way we did last week, that was pretty neat. So thank you to everyone who reached out to me or commented on either the Spotify or YouTube posting of the episode. There was one thing that I wanted to correct that we did get factually wrong. And as someone pointed out, we talked about the $80 price tag of Mario Kart World being only for the digital edition, while physical copies are $90. And it turns out that is not true, at least in the US. I've had some European listeners reach out and say that it is actually true for their country, but at least in the United States, the $90 physical game appears to be a widely spread internet myth. For now, because who knows what tomorrow will hold when it comes to 2025, this economic climate, or just this console launch in general, because we're just so in the dark about everything that's going on with Switch 2. But either way, I'm sorry for getting that one wrong last week. Seth, yes. We have a time-honored tradition when somebody makes their debut on All Things Nintendo, and that is getting to know them through the lens of their history and their love for Nintendo. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions here to let our audience get to know you, if they're not already familiar with you through Nintendo voice chat. The first one here is, what is your first Nintendo game? It could be your first memory, the first game you owned, the first game you played, any way you want to interpret that.
Oh, man. There's a lot of cool stories behind. You know what? I'll start at the beginning, because that's the perfect place to start, actually. I am a child of the 80s. I'm one of the oldest people on earth. I was born in 1977, the same year as the Atari 2600 came out, the same year Star Wars came out, the same year Dungeons and Dragons was invented, the same year Ludacris was born, Tom Brady. I used to be like, yeah, the same year Kanye was born. Now I don't do that.
We can distance ourselves from that one.
We don't. Yeah, I do. He could have a different year. But anyway, so I was there when when I was a little kid, playing Atari, which, for those of you who have never experienced an Atari, at the time it was something else. It's not great. It's hard to go back to Atari games. And then the collapse happened. Like, the video game collapse happened, and my parents got my brother and I a ColecoVision And we used to go to like the Sears, and they had the big bins like you see them at Walmart for DVDs. But it was Atari games, Atari 2600 games, because I think I'm mixing this up. We got an Atari 2600 as well, and we would go to Sears, and you could get games for $1. You could just dive in, and we get like 2-3 games. The box art looked amazing. The actual games looked like crap. And so it kind of felt like video games were done because the industry had completely collapsed. I had my best friends. It was like my brother's best friend and my best friend were also brothers. So we were always over there, and his dad would just buy them, old consoles. They weren't old, but used consoles at like yard sales. So they had an Intellivision, they had an Atari 5200. Those are fun. Again, not great. And then one time I remember, probably 1986 or 7, my friend Daniel being like, you gotta come over, dude. You have to come over to see what we rented. And they had rented an NES, which is what you did back in the day. You rented the entire like console and then a game. And we sat down and we played Super Mario Brothers. And it was like a sea change moment, basically, like unbelievable, like mind blowing experience, because all of a sudden this was a game that had a like progression and a point. Before, you'd play an Atari game, with a few exceptions, the whole point, the idea was to just get the high score. So you just kept playing levels and levels and levels until they get progressively harder and harder. But this was a game, here's a little man, and he runs from one side to the other, and then he goes underground, and then there's secrets, and then push down on that pipe, and like, oh my God, what is this? And so that was just this mind-blowing thing that it, like, instantly I was in love with Nintendo. And I was also at that age when Nintendo hit. So like everybody my age was just like Nintendo Entertainment System crazy. So it's all, any of us talked about at school. We all had Nintendo Power subscriptions. We all went to see The Wizard in the theater.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I regret, I didn't know it at the time, but they gave you like a little magazine called Pocket Power, which covered the original Dragon Warrior game, which is, Dragon Quest now. Wasn't well received, didn't sell well. I think they ended up giving it away with like subscriptions, but I loved Dragon Warrior. That was my first RPG. And so like, that's kind of my other memory, is like my first experience with an RPG was Dragon Quest. Then I found Final Fantasy, which was like, oh my God, they took it to the next level. There's 4 guys here. Oh my God, they grow up. You get a rat tail and they turn into to adult people. So yeah, my Nintendo kind of obsession started at the beginning. So, and like I very vividly remember, they had one of those console TVs that was like a piece of furniture, and the Nintendo like sitting on top and just sitting in front of it on their braided rug, playing Super Mario and just having our minds just absolutely blown.
Yeah, the best place to start, really, because then you can see the entire evolution of the company. Like, I also got my start through NES. I was born a bit later than you, but like,
most people were.
It was still amazing to like, the first games that I played were like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, Tetris NES, Legend of Zelda. Yeah. Like, those were the ones that I cut my teeth on. And then my first console I ever owned was a Super Nintendo. But like,
nice,
just having that like that experience of seeing this fledgling video game company that has grown up to become this juggernaut that exists today it's nice for perspective. The story that I always tell is that like my aunt and uncle had the Mario Duck Hunt cartridge, and then they also had the Tetris, and that was like one of the first places I played video games. And I just became so obsessed with it that I would just like come over to their house for like a family gathering and just disappear into the basement and play Nintendo until like my parents told me it was time to leave. And one time I went over, and it was just going to be me spending the weekend at my aunt and uncle's house. And I was so excited to just play Nintendo all weekend because I didn't have one of my own. And I got there and they're like, oh no, we sold it. And I'm like, what? And I was so upset. And then, so I was like, okay, well, whatever. And I spent like the weekend, like, I think we went like roller skating and went to like a water park and stuff. It was great. And it was fun spending time with my aunt and uncle. But then years later, they told me they didn't actually sell it, and that instead they just hid it when I came over because they actually wanted to spend time with me instead of seeing me just disappear and play video games.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess. They could have just said, we're not, whatever. I'm sure they had a family meeting and they decided that would probably be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was probably just one day they're like, oh yeah, we should probably put that away. And like, there's a closet that he's not going to go in. Let's just do that. So Seth, that brings us to the second part of this equation, which is, what is your favorite Nintendo game of all time?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, without a beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's got to be Tears of the Kingdom. I mean,
Nice.
I also think that that's just the greatest game of all time. It's. I remember when when we were first learning about it, and we're like, wait a minute, it's the same map. Like, how is this going to be? No, no, it's not. It's part of it's the same map, but it's not the same map, and it's just. I love open world games so much. They're my favorite kind of game. I very rarely beat open world games. I end up just sort of living inside of their worlds. I did beat Tears of the Kingdom mostly because it became like a running joke on NBC that I just never wanted to beat it. I never wanted that to end. But so many people are like, dude, it has, one of the best endings of any game ever.
So
and you
good.
can still keep playing it. And so I finally yeah, okay, I gave in and I was like, okay, I'm actually very glad that I played that through to completion. Yeah, it did everything. It was everything that I liked about Breath of the Wild, but just like more and more. Obviously 3 times or however someone has done the math. 3 times as big. Kind of an unbelievable achievement for what the Switch hardware is capable of. The building mechanic. I mean, just everything about it. Just the sense of discovery. It really is absolutely my favorite game of all time. And I know that I'm the kind of person who will probably buy like the upgrade for Switch 2 just so I can replay it in 60 FPS. Like obviously before Tears of the Kingdom, my favorite game of all time, Breath of the Wild. I actually played Breath of the Wild in the lead up or started replaying it, before Tears of the Kingdom came out. Just thought I wanted to like wade back into it. And I put 45 hours in on a replay before Tears of the Kingdom came out. I was like, I guess I really like this game. I didn't beat it on that playthrough, but what struck me so much about it, and maybe I'm gonna have to replay Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, no, I'm going to definitely buy it.
Yeah,
Switch 2.
Of course, so am I.
But
I'm buying both of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what we do. We're Nintendo fans. We buy the games over again, or like buy the upgrades for them. But yeah, just this sort of like things that I didn't even experience the first time around. Like, whoa, like, side quests or characters that I didn't meet, somehow missed entirely, and then found them on my second playthrough. My second playthrough, not playthrough, but the second time I played was significantly different feeling than the first time I played. And it still was wonderful and held up. And then, of course, Tears of the Kingdom was like, not anymore, Breath of the Wild, flink, and that became my favorite game of all time.
So how do you feel about those people who are like, Tears of the Kingdom isn't actually like that good? Like, I'm sure you've seen the criticism where it's like, it's actually not as good as Breath of the Wild. Here's all the reasons, like point A, point B, point C. Like, I think that's a lot of that stuff is overblown. I personally think Tears of the Kingdom is phenomenal. Like, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. Tears of the Kingdom, it's one of those situations where I might concede that it's a better game, but the impact that Breath of the Wild had on me was so much more profound because it was the first game of its kind.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of reconcile with that?
I mean, people are entitled to their wrong opinions. I mean, I definitely agree. Like the impact of Breath of the Wild compared to the impact of Tears of the Kingdom wasn't quite the same, because like that was sort of, for me, Breath of the Wild was the realization of, and I think younger people don't understand that when we played video games back in the 8-bit, 16-bit days, we kind of had to use our imaginations. You had to imagine that was a scary dragon. You had to imagine that those brown blocks were mountains. So that sort of feeling of what was in our heads that we were imagining when we played The Legend of Zelda on the NES, I felt like that was realized in Breath of the Wild, and it was like a childhood sort of dream come true, basically, with the exception of dungeons. It didn't have the dungeons that the originals did, but that's fine. So I do agree, impact not the same, but as far as the game, like, they sanded off all the edges, and they went above and beyond what feels like should even be possible, not just for the Nintendo Switch and its hardware, but for just like game design. I remember we talked about this a lot on on NBC, but I am very surprised to this day that you can't just climb everywhere in open world games. Like, when Breath of the Wild came out, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Now you're just going to be able to climb everywhere in every game, and you still can't do that. You still get to, like, oh, there's a there's a table in this corner, and for some reason I can't go around it. So yeah, unbelievable achievement. And then Tears of the Kingdom just did even more than that. So, man.
So I ran into Logan at the in-person New York event
Oh,
for the Switch
nice.
2. Briefly chatted with him. Did he report back to you about how amazing Tears of the Kingdom looks in 60 frames per second?
No, Brian Altano said it looked really good. He was mostly talking about Metroid Prime looking fantastic and feeling really good. But no, I'm very excited to see the graphical upgrades. And I was actually think I saw somebody was posting about how everybody was complaining because it didn't look like that much of an upgrade, but that's because they were looking at pictures side by side. But when you watched it on the Treehouse Live, it was like, whoa, this is holy cow, this is unbelievable.
It's so much smoother, and I always maintain that like frame rate and HDR are the two most impactful parts of visual upgrades. So it's like if they gave you like Metroid Prime 4, when I played that, they were like, okay, well, yeah, there's like this 4K 60 frames per second mode, but you're going to be playing in 1080p 120 frames per second. I'm like, that is so much better. I'm so much more excited about that. And I have to agree with Brian Altano. That is probably the best looking Nintendo game that's ever existed to this point.
Oh,
wow. It is
Wow.
incredible. Like my jaw was wide open when I was watching the opening cutscene. I was like, this is running on a Switch 2.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. My Tears of the Kingdom story is that I went to E3 2019 and Nintendo hosted an event where they were like, hey, you can come a day early and see all of like the entire Nintendo Direct that we're going to be showing at E3, and you can write up all the stories ahead of time. So I went to that event, went back to my hotel room, spent like 4 hours writing all the news stories, and then I was like, great. I let the team at Game Informer know, like, we got this covered. Nobody has to worry about this. And then I am on my way to an appointment like the day of, and I know that the Direct is running like at this time. So I'm walking over. I'm like, I already saw it all. I don't need to sit down and watch it again. All the stories are written. Everybody, kick your feet up, enjoy. I get a frantic text from former coworker Suriel Vasquez. Did you cover the Zelda thing? And I'm like, what Zelda thing? Because I remember at the end of that E3 press conference or E3 Direct, it just kind of faded to black, and it was like I guess was it Koizumi that was on screen? And he was like, "Thank you so much for watching," and then he bowed, and then it just cut black. And I was like, I looked over at my former boss Andrew Reiner, and I was like, "Was that a little abrupt to you?" And he's like, "No, I think it was fine." I was like, "All right," didn't think another thing of it. Come to find out that they didn't show us the teaser of the sequel to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and I get this text, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to watch this. So I'm sitting in the middle of E3 watching this thing as I'm on my way to my first interview. Turns out my first interview was with Eiji Aonuma. So I was the first person to interview him after the surprise reveal. And I walk in and they're just like, hey, this is only about the Link's Awakening remake. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand. And I knew in the back of my head I was going to pull the old, like, okay, we'll talk about Link's Awakening for like 80%, and then I'm going to sneak in some questions at the end. And sure enough, I did. He answered like why they wanted to go back to that version of Hyrule, how long the development cycle is going to last, and yeah, it was a very fun and frantic thing where it's like, oh wow, I am immediate. Like, it just so happened I was scheduled to talk to Aonuma about Link's Awakening when they reveal a sequel to, one of the greatest games of all time.
Damn, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was a cool little event that happened there. And then it didn't come out for like 4 years after that.
Hey, it's fine. I was bummed when they came out and apologized that it's going to take another year. But then when we got the game, we're like, oh, I get it now. Like,
yeah, that was so ambitious.
It makes sense. Yeah, why you guys took another year on this one? It's fine. Let it cook.
And there's all of the like those developers coming out being like, this is wizardry that this runs on Switch.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just breaks. I mean, I have no like game design knowledge or background or anything like that, but just to see like all the scenarios that they have to think, like, well, what if the player does this? Oh yeah, the crap. Like to take all of that into account and then have it work in that huge world. I mean, I could see it working in like a couple rooms, like a puzzle game, but my God. What an accomplishment. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, best game ever. Best Nintendo game. My favorite Nintendo game.
And it looks fantastic on Nintendo Switch
Oh,
too.
can't
Like, I
wait.
can't wait. I was actually, I think last episode or 2 episodes ago, I was talking about how I was really getting the itch to replay Breath of the Wild and then lead directly into Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm.
And then I was like, Switch 2 is going to be coming soon. And I'm so glad that I waited, because I would have been so bummed if I played like Breath of the Wild and half of Tears of the Kingdom and they're just like, well, now you can do it in 60 frames per second. I probably would have felt compelled to like start all over, which
Yeah.
I don't have the time for that.
Yeah, nobody does. I mean, it's hard to. Well, no, I say that now, but when a game like that grabs me, I'm like, oh, I've got all the time in the world to put towards this game now. Isn't that something? You mentioned Link's Awakening. There's a game that will very much benefit from the power of the Switch too. That's
Oh yeah.
such a bummer that had such troubles even way back then, but the upgrade path is there. Some of them are free and many of them won't be.
Well, at least Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is included with the Switch Online expansion pack.
Oh,
So
I did not know that. Well,
yeah,
that is huge because I am a big fan of that already.
yes.
I'm just waiting for them to tell us that cost more.
Well, now that GameCube's coming, you know it's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, it's true.
But all right, Seth, before we get into the Mario Kart World news, we have some other stuff to quickly catch up on. But first, at the risk of droning on too long, now that we're 2 weeks removed, what was your reaction to the Switch 2 reveal?
I loved the Switch 2 reveal. I thought it was incredible. It was much better than I had anticipated as far as like the power and what the console itself, like it's a 7-inch 1080p 120 hertz screen in handheld mode. That was not on my bingo card at all. The Steam Deck is 1200 by 800 and it runs at 60 hertz unless you get the OLED, which runs at 90 hertz. So I was not expecting that. We've joked forever about 4K, and we'd also said that, we'd said on NBC 100, we're not going to see 4K this time. Like, they're going to probably just pump up the frame rates. We're not going to see 4K. That's going to be their next console or like a mid-cycle refresh. Wrong, way off. 4K is there. They've got the NVIDIA chip in there running the DLSS. I actually had a really cool conversation with Rich Ledbetter from Digital Foundry, who makes like me feel smarter just to like listen to every sentence that he said. But yeah, we talked for like 45 minutes and he just spouted all this really cool technical like know-how about what they saw coming out of the Switch 2. But yeah, I was not expecting any of it. I wouldn't give it like a 10 out of 10 as far as a presentation. I'd probably give it like a 9 out of 10, because as excited as I am for our new 3D Donkey Kong game that we've been wanting since Donkey Kong 64, that didn't quite have the sort of like one more thing Steve Jobs moment that I was hoping was going to come at the end, whatever that could have been. We all thought it was going to be a new Super Mario Odyssey game.
Definitely.
And when they were sort of showing that, that's where we were like, is this a new Odyssey? And then it was Donkey Kong Bonanza. Hell yeah, let's go. But that's the only reason. Otherwise, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was awesome, and it exceeded my expectations in almost every way, other than not having that gigantic sort of Mario or maybe Zelda or something, or like the Return of Kid Icarus or whatever, some moonshot kind of dream. But yeah, I was fired up. I mean, I'm always fired up, so yeah. I guess that's not really saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they didn't show off Mario Kart in the that first reveal trailer, that would have been like the big reveal that people would have been losing their minds about. But it is kind of a step down. I mean, I love Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Bonanza was so much fun from what I played, and Metroid Prime 4 is obviously something people are like really excited for. But like, yeah, it was kind of missing that like huge, like I think we're going to get something around Summer Game Fest time frame where it's going to be like, okay, the Switch 2 is out. Here's what you can expect the second half of this year. And that's when we'll get a Mario game. That's my prediction anyway.
No, I think you're probably right. And if not a Mario game, something in that sort of caliber that's going to get people to go to Walmart, Amazon, GameStop, Best Buy to buy that as the hot summer toy. Like, there's going to be that one game, or probably actually like 3 games that they're going to have lined up to really capture that holiday market. And I do think like a 3D Mario is it's been what?
8.5 years by the time this, right?
What?
Or it'll be 8 years by the time for Super Mario Odyssey. If you count Bowser's Fury, it's been less time than that. But like,
oh yeah, well,
Bowser's Fury is kind of a half game.
Yeah, doesn't count as much as Odyssey, which
2017.
holy cow, That doesn't seem possible. That is,
In the time since we've gotten a 3D Mario game, we've gotten another 3D Zelda game, which is
yeah,
wild.
yeah. And we,
Because those both came out in 2017, Breath of the Wild and Odyssey.
yeah, that's right. Because everyone thought Odyssey was going to be a launch game, and then it was their fall game, which I think was a very smart move from them on a business business perspective. But yeah, I think you heard it here first, folks. 3D Mario this fall from Nintendo.
I mean, that'll join a pretty solid lineup of, Pokemon Legends ZA,
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4 presumably is going to be in the fall.
Yeah.
There's going to be several other games that are going to get announced, I would assume, this summer for a fall release. I think Switch 2 is going to have a very big end of this year.
I think you're right. Yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
We have a few industry luminaries that actually gave their thoughts about the Nintendo Switch 2. First up, your old pal, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer,
Hey,
did an
what's up?
interview with Variety, and they asked him about the Xbox's plans for Switch 2, and here's what he said, quote, "So we've been supporting Switch 1. I want to support Switch 2. Nintendo has been a great partner. We think it is a unique way for us to reach players who aren't PC players, who aren't players on Xbox. It lets us continue to grow our community of people that care about the franchises that we have. And that's really important for us to make sure we continue to invest in our games. I'm a really big believer in what Nintendo means for this industry and us continuing to support them. And getting the support from them for our franchises, I think, is an important part of our future."
Damn.
That certainly sounds promising with regards to Xbox bringing more games to Switch in the near future. Maybe,
Yeah.
Nintendo having Xbox stuff on their Nintendo Directs. But Seth, quick, what is your biggest hope for an Xbox game to come to Switch 2?
Oh my God. I mean, the obvious answer, I would say, you're probably thinking Flight Simulator, but no, because I like to simulate. I like the simulate part of that. So I have like the flight stick and the control quadrant and gauges and extra screens and a flight plan all planned out on my iPad. So no, it's not going to be that. You know what I think would be awesome on a portable system would be, I mean, it already is, if you go through some hoops, the Master Chief Collection. Like, on Switch, that would rule so hard. Like some of the best games ever made, the best console shooters probably ever made on Nintendo Switch 2. Like, let's go. Like that's what I want to see. And it feels like fired up about Switch 2. I bet that isn't even going to be an issue. That'd probably be one of the things. And then the Forza, I mean, we're getting that kind of with Super Mario or with Mario Kart World, but the Forza games, Forza Horizon games would be really fun on Switch as well.
Forza Horizon 5 is my favorite racing game of all time, and that would be amazing to have on the go. Like, I think it's racing perfection. It is the epitome of a game that just like has so much fun to offer, and it does nothing to get in your way of it, right? Like from that intro sequence where the cars are dropping out of planes to like just like, okay, here's the story. You can just like put that on in the background while you drive around and like jump off volcanoes and stuff. It's just like it's the most fun that I've ever had in a racing game, and like it is tied for the highest score I've ever given a video game.
Oh, whoa.
At Game Informer. I gave it a 9.5, and I think the only other game I've given that score to has been Metroid Prime Remastered.
Hell yeah.
Because that game is incredible in those modernizations.
Yes, indeed.
I would say maybe Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
That's a good fit. I'm not even a Sea of Thieves player, but it seems like such a natural fit for, or maybe even Hi-Fi Rush. Like those games feel like perfect fits for the Switch player base.
Absolutely. I mean, Call of Duty is probably going to come back.
I mean, they've already announced that. They've already said
they did?
They remember when they were doing like the antitrust thing with Xbox and Activision?
That's right,
they were like, we've signed a multi-year deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo consoles, and we're just waiting to find out what that first one's going to be. I would assume it's going to be this fall.
Yeah, I would assume it's going to be whatever the next Call of Duty is. That's my other it's not my Nintendo secret. I'm a huge Call of Duty player. I play every year with my friends online, the Beef Lords. What up to the Beef Lords? And I've reviewed the multiplayer portion, I think like 3 out of the last 4 years. So I just really I don't play any part of it except for the multiplayer, and I've started playing Warzone again. But I think that would be, especially with the mouse controls, like that might be pretty nice, because I don't like to play with controller because I'm not a baby.
But yeah, I mean, Call of Duty, they've been, I mean, uh, whatever, Black Ops 6, that's the latest
Yep.
one. God, I
Yep.
lost the name for a second there. That one was surprisingly good after they had a couple of down entries, I thought, anyway.
Yeah,
Black
they
fantastic.
kind of, it felt like they were sort of just going through the motions, and which is kind of like uh, a perfectly executed pizza with no imagination. Like, it's still a delicious pizza, but you wish there was something else. And it did feel like the last few years before Black Ops 6 that it was. I mean, the game, the gunplay, the game, the progression, everything is like really solid, but it just was missing something. And then this year, I don't know what it is, but this year I agree. I feel it does feel way better.
Hmm. So that was Xbox singing the praises of Nintendo Switch 2. On the other side of the coin, former president of PlayStation's Worldwide Studios, Shuhei Yoshida, did an interview with Easy Allies where he was a little bit less enthusiastic about the Switch 2 reveal. And I found the transcription of this over on Nintendo Life. He said, quote, "To me, it was a bit of a mixed message from Nintendo. In a sense, I think Nintendo is losing their identity, in my opinion.
Hmm.
For me, they are always about creating a new experience, designing hardware and games together to create something, an amazing new experience. But Switch 2, as we all anticipated, is a better Switch, right? It's a larger screen, more powerful processor, higher resolution, 4K, 120 frames per second. They even had the hardware person starting the stream like other platforms do, right? And
Hmm.
because it's a better Switch, the whole core premise of the Switch 2 is, we made things better. And that's something other companies have been doing all the time. How does that quote strike you?
You know, I think that's a fair assessment. It is definitely just a bigger, better Switch with a few, the mouse controls. I think is probably the biggest. I think it's but ultimately it is a refined Nintendo Switch. Yeah, Nintendo. I don't know if it's really fair to say that that's because the Super Nintendo was just a better Nintendo, and the Nintendo 64 was just that was their first 3D thing, which obviously was huge. So I take that back. But the GameCube was kind of just like a better Nintendo 64, and then the Wii was, well, okay, the Wii kind of changed everything forever. But then they took a lot of risks with the Wii U, and that did not work out well. And what I have, we've talked a lot about on the NBC how Nintendo as like a company feels like it's firing on all cylinders. Up until some of the messaging of the Switch 2, it felt like they were really locked in, the best they'd been as far as just like business and marketing. But yeah, I think Shuhei is correct, but I don't think Nintendo wanted to do anything experimental this
Mm-hmm.
time around. They saw what worked, they saw what made them mountains of money, and they said, let's just do that, but more. And the features now they're added were presumably will probably reach out to more of the tech conscious people, but at the same time, I don't think that they will care anyway. Like the PS5 bros, they don't care about Nintendo at all ever, and they probably never will. So yeah, I think that's a fair quote. I thought it was actually going to be like I hadn't read the actual quote. I just seen that the headline saying he kind of was disparaging it, and I was like, well, he's still mad because everybody at Sony has to be mad at Nintendo forever because they did the old bait and switch with the Philips CDI. So yeah, no, I think he has a point there. That being said, I don't care, and I
Yeah.
don't think any Nintendo fan is like, oh, I wish it had eye tracking control. I wish they had a Tobii eye tracker built into it. Yeah, we're all pretty excited about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I honestly, a bigger, better Switch was just what I wanted. Like, that's
Yeah.
all I wanted. I didn't want them to be like, okay, well, now there's like, some way to play games with your feet. And like, that's the main input for this. Like, kind of how they went from like GameCube to Wii. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, like motion control was fun for a while. But then eventually I was just like, just give me like a normal controller and let me
Yeah.
play games that way.
Yeah.
And that's why it's
Yeah.
kind of a bummer when it's like you go back to play, like, I know Skyward Sword is like an all-time classic for a lot of people, but I just can't get through it because the controls. And it's like, man, I wish that, and I know that they put out the button controls and everything like that, but like, man, I still can't take to it. I think that
Yeah.
like there's something about it that it just doesn't feel designed for that, even as they retrofitted it. And I think there's almost like an entire generation, and certain things like Wii Sports are still amazing to play, but like I just wanted like a core gaming experience the way Switch 1 delivered, and I wanted more of that and
Yeah.
better of that, because we're getting to a point where all these third-party titles are coming over to Switch 1 and they're crappy, or they're not coming over at all.
Yeah.
So it's something that I just like, Nintendo needed to level up after 8 years.
Yeah.
They needed to level up their system, and that's what they did. They made a better version. They innovated with the Switch, and now they iterated and improved and made it even better.
Yeah, and I think Nintendo has not abandoned its sort of core mission of making weird, goofy things. I own an Alarmo. That is something that Nintendo made. It's an alarm clock that Link warms his hands by the fire and watches me sleep, and it's very creepy. And then Labo, which didn't do great, but that is something fun and experimental. So I think Nintendo is still doing that. They're just not doing it with this console. And same with you, Brian. Like, yeah, like I just wanted more Switch. Give me more. Give me a bigger, better Switch. Also, it's easier now to just explain. I think part of the problem with the Wii U was that it was difficult to explain what it was and why you needed the gamepad. I worked with a guy. He bought the Wii U for his son, and he went to go on a road trip. He's like, dude, you can't take that thing on the road with you. You gotta keep it plugged into the TV. He's like, this is stupid. I didn't know that. And I think they don't want to do that again. I think they just want to make it, this is what you had before, but it's better. Very simple to get those into people's hands.
Yeah, and I agree with you, though, that Shuhei is correct, but I don't think it matters.
Yes, agree.
So one thing I did not get to see when I played the Switch 2 in New York a couple of weeks ago was the user interface of the home screen, which is something that people have been asking me about. And someone did get up during the press conference that they had with the 3 designers of the Switch 2, and they asked about the eShop. And the team kind of danced around it, saying that, they had a lot of problems with the Switch 1 eShop, as I think any rational human being would. But they said they wanted to improve it for Switch 2, but we didn't get much else. But I did find this, speaking of Nintendo life, transcribed that Shuhei Yoshida quote from them. I saw this over here, that the Japanese Nintendo website actually published some screenshots of the user interface.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm going to flash these up on the video version. If you're listening on audio, you might want to go check them out. But the main home screen looks very similar to the Switch 1 home screen, but it's a little bit, I think, sleeker, I guess would be like the best way to describe it. And then there's a few additional buttons down at the bottom. And then the first screen that you see when you wake the system up looks kind of similar to what we have on the Switch 1, although like kind of the featured image is like bigger and bolder. So and then it still shows like the news and then like, profiles and stuff. But speaking of profiles, it looks like the user profiles have been completely overhauled. So that's fun. But the thing that caught my eye the most is the way it presents the games available on Nintendo Switch Online. So I've played GameCube on Switch 2, so I know that they're still presented kind of largely the same within like their own individual apps. But it looks like you can go and just like see, like it has like all the systems up at the top, and like you can select like, okay, I want to see what's on the NES, and it lists them out. It looks like maybe even in chronological order, like the box art, and it looks really like clean. And I'm hoping that would be a way that you can access these games like through a more streamlined menu, because right now, like, I like that you can organize them. I like that I can be like, okay, let me put all the Mario games in this row and all my Kirby games in this row. But it would be so nice to have them organized in this kind of official way, because it does look super clean. But Seth, what is your biggest hope for the UI of the Switch 2?
Oh my God. That is, I mean, you kind of just said what I would like. I would be nicer for the Nintendo Switch Online games to be just accessible at a glance. I don't like that I would like it if I could just see all the games that are available, and by system, or like alphabetical, or by genre, or whatever, that not having to quit out of the Game Boy app, go to the NES app, open that up, wait a second for it. I would love an improvement like that in the UI. Other than that, I mean, I just want like bells and whistles and extra fun little things, cute
themes.
Like, themes. I would love themes. I
bring them back.
I brought my 3DS out to do some stuff for Tomodachi Life, and I have Mega Man, the Mega Man theme that came with the Mega Man Classics collection, Legacy collection, volumes 1 and 2. Which, by the way, I threw that box away like an idiot without realizing that made it so much more valuable on the secondary market. I thought nobody would care. Anyway, yeah, themes would be the best, and time into the game, make an achievement system that's fun, that you get an achievement and it unlocks a sticker or a badge or something, that like Badge Arcade that you can put on your theme. I would love themes. Bring them back, Nintendo. You're not going to, but that's okay.
By the way, just a little bit of a tangent here. Are you also a Tomodachi Life sicko?
Oh, I did the guide. That was one of the first like big freelance jobs that I did for IGN. I did the guide for Tomodachi Life for IGN. I don't know how much of what's there is mine because it's a wiki, so anybody can edit it. But yeah, that was like one of the first things I did, and I played that so much, and I bought it for my kids, and it was really cool actually to like open it up again after 10 years and see like little versions of my kids who are now like one of them's legally an adult. But like little versions and like all the weird fun little meme me's that we had back then between me and my friends, and like just me and my kids, we had our little meme me's, which is very hard to say. Yeah, that's I'm so fired up for that one but 2026 is like,
I
really?
know.
It's so far away.
I was hoping that was going to be like a summer release or something like that. I love Tomodachi Life. It's maybe a top 5 3DS game for me.
Oh yeah, it's what's crazy is because I feel like no one has been talking about it forever, and then I was reminded that's like one of the best selling 3DS games of all time. I was like, really? Was it? Because nobody talks about it anymore, but now everybody does.
What a pop that got from me when they announced that there was a new Tomodachi Life coming to Switch. I was so excited.
That never crossed my mind that would be the game that was.
I gave up hope. I was hoping that it would happen at some point, and then like once we got to the Switch 2, I was like, all right, well, I guess they just forgot about that weird little experiment they did on 3DS.
Yeah.
Because they've been moving away from Mii's more and more. Like even like the Nintendo Switch Sports doesn't really use like proper Mii's. It's like these little like cartoony avatars instead of Mii's, which feels really wrong.
It does.
So I was worried that they had just been like, okay, we're going to leave Mii's completely in the past. I'm so happy that's not the case.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
So we didn't just have a Nintendo Direct over the last week. We had a couple of other streams that occurred. One of those was the Triple I initiative, which gave us a ton of news about games like there's a platformer racing game called Speedrunners 2. There's a soccer game from the Sifu developer called Rematch, and other stuff like they gave us the release date for The Alters and a cool looking shooter where you're fighting corrupt AI called Voidbreaker. All of that looks incredible. Unfortunately, none of those are currently announced for the Switch, but we did receive, I guess you could call it a long-awaited announcement, because back in 2019, there was a game called Katana Zero, and it arrived from a one-person developer called ASCII Soft. Shortly after launch, the developer said he was working on free DLC for the game, and unfortunately that never came out. And as the years have passed, we've heard very little about it, aside from a few interviews here and there where he was saying, oh yeah, I'm still working on that. It's still coming along. And during this Triple I initiative stream last week, they confirmed that the DLC is not only still happening, it'll still be free to all who own Katana Zero, but on top of that, it's almost ready.
Nice.
Still no release date, so don't get too excited. But he is saying that it is almost done, and they said that the DLC is nearly as big as the original game at this point. It's going to pick up right where the original story left off, and it's going to add new characters, levels, story, and gameplay mechanics. I've actually never played Katana Zero. I've always thought it looks super cool and looks like right up my alley. Have you checked this one out?
It's in my backlog, along with probably 150 other games. But no, this is another thing where it looks exactly like a game that I would love, and I haven't gotten around to playing it. So please forgive me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I went to go look at like the eShop, and I was like, oh, well, I should buy this game because I've said I should play it forever, and it gave me the old already downloaded on the eShop. So I guess I bought it a long time ago and just never played it.
That's a sobering experience. You're like, oh man, I want to play this game. Oh, I've owned it since 2018. All right, good for me. Nice.
So Game Informer gave Katana Zero a 7.75 out of 10, but it has an 8.3 out of 10 on Metacritic. And if you look at Steam, currently has overwhelmingly positive user reviews with nearly 62,000 users rating it.
Whoa.
The base game is available on Switch right now, and it is actually currently on sale for $9, down
Oh,
from the
snap.
normal price of $15. So if that sounds up your alley, go check that out. There was also another stream that we got this week that was called the Galaxies Showcase stream, which featured a ton of indie games. Again, new gameplay from things like FBC's Firebreak, which is the co-op shooter set in the world of Remedy's Control, RuneScape Dragon Wilds, and the reveal of Covenant, which is from a new studio founded by developers behind Call of Duty, Halo, and Destiny. But unfortunately, none of those are announced to come to Switch. But we did get one Switch 2 announcement, and it looks like a pretty cool one. So I know that you're a man after my own heart here, Seth. You are a fan of the martial arts.
Yes.
You train Muay Thai. I used to train
do.
kickboxing and traditional
Nice.
boxing. I haven't had like formal training in quite a while, but I did have a boxing gym in my garage over COVID. Spine is the name of this game, and it's from developer publisher Neki, and it features free flow gun fu, similar to what you would see in a John Wick movie, and they kind of have described it as Sifu, but you have guns on top of like martial arts, and you control a woman named Redline as she moves from enemy to enemy. She can shoot them, she can fight them hand to hand, she can use environment, like she can pick up stuff, make like with makeshift weapons, she can smash them into like smash enemies into like surfaces. Parries are a big part of it. It looks super cinematic, like the camera even swings down real low during combat to make it feel like you're right in the middle of the action.
Nice.
If it plays anywhere near as good as it looks, I think this is going to be one to keep your eyes on. I looked and looked and looked. Wikipedia says it's coming 2025, but the Steam page, the Xbox page, the PlayStation page, the press releases, no mention of a release date. But one of the big announcements coming out of the stream is that it is coming to Switch 2 alongside the aforementioned PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X releases.
Nice.
So this is the kind of game I'm actually super excited to see announced for Switch 2, because this is like a pretty visually impressive and mechanically impressive game, which I think means like kind of leads back to that point I was making earlier, that developers are basically, by announcing their really visually impressive games, are basically vouching for the power of the Switch 2 as being kind of like close enough to other consoles, hopefully meaning that like ports won't be too hard to make work well.
Yeah.
Where are you at right now on like the state of like third-party games coming to Switch 2?
I mean, I think we're just going to see a lot of the games we loved 2 years ago coming to Switch 2. And I don't know that, I think we'll start, we'll see initially like a 1-to-1, and I think that'll taper off, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I like to play older games anyway. And I think one of the most wonderful features of the Nintendo Switch is that it's just this indie powerhouse. So I don't really care if every game doesn't make it over. I mean, we've been hearing rumors of PlayStation 6, like 2027, please God, no. But that'll obviously be much more powerful, but who cares? Yeah, I think we'll see quite a few, and then I think we'll see it taper off, and then I think it'll become the new indie powerhouse machine. I mean, I think it still will be, but I think that's one of its strongest points, or what will be one of its strongest points, is that we'll get like bigger, nicer indie games, along with all the ones that we love that, look like a single pixel bouncing around the screen.
Seth, before we wrap up this news segment, I have a little bit of a preview to give, because I was able to go hands-on with Capcom Fighting Collection 2.
Oh.
So the build I played was actually the PS5 version. It was either the PS5 or the Steam version. Those were the ones on offer. They didn't have the Switch version on offer. Otherwise, I probably would have chosen that. But so if you're not familiar with the games included on this, it's mostly Capcom fighting games from 1998 to 2004. So there's Plasma Sword, Nightmare of Bilstein, Power Stone, Power Stone 2, Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro, Project Justice, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, Capcom vs. SNK 2 Mark of the Millennium 2001, and Capcom Fighting Evolution. I was not able to play Power Stone 1 or Capcom Fighting Evolution, but I was able to access the rest of that catalog. And I mean, I've been begging Capcom, literally asking the director and producer of Street Fighter 6 while I was in their offices in Osaka a couple years ago to please bring back Power Stone, because I adored those games so much on Dreamcast. And when I asked them that, all they said was, "Yeah, we'd like that too." and, and guess what? The producer of this game is the producer that I asked that to. So
Oh yeah.
I'm excited, but like it feels so good to go in and play these games. Like the Capcom versus SNK games, I missed completely when they came
Yeah.
out. So Project Justice, I was always like, I was reading like old GamePro magazines back in the day and like seeing rival schools screenshots and be like, this is the
Oh my
coolest game
God.
ever. I wish
Yeah.
that was in this catalog, but like Project Justice is super fun to play. Like it's a 3D fighter from 2000, so it hasn't aged particularly well as we watch, Soul Calibur footage over your shoulder. But but I will say Nightmare of Plasma Sword Nightmare of Bilstein, I didn't even hear about that game before this collection. It's very Soul Calibur-esque.
Okay.
It's kind of Soul Calibur, but Star Wars-y. Like it's very futuristic. They all have laser swords. But yeah, very like kind of weapon melee based combat. And then Power Stone's awesome. Capcom vs SNK, and Street Fighter Alpha 3 is one of the greatest 2D fighters of all time. So it's great to have like an incredible version of that with Upper. But yeah, I had a really great time playing this, and I'm excited for this to come out, and I'm excited to have like a portable version for Switch.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's coming to Switch and every other major platform on May 16th. So check that out. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
You just reminded me of. Hold on, you might have to edit this out if I can't find it instantly. Hold on.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Actually, it's right here.
Terrific.
So I already have a game to pitch to Capcom for the next fighting collection.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Oh yeah.
Which is another very, very good one that you should check out it's for Wii. So if you have your Wii U hooked up, it's backwards compatible. But yeah, this is a great game. Was this a Wii exclusive game, or
pretty sure it was?
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with Tatsunoko, they're well, I guess like an anime production studio. They have a lot of characters like that I'm not remembering the names. Anyway, whatever. Bring this one out too. This is a good one. Everyone should check it. I think this is like a $20 game too, if you wanted to buy it on the used market. Very, very fun.
Well, I guess it was not only on Wii, because it received a release in Japanese only arcades.
Okay.
So, but over here in the US, it was Wii exclusive.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Bring that'll be in the next one. That's probably like a 2009 game. So that'll be in their next collection.
Yeah. And by the way, Power Stone 2 show their age a little bit, but, or I guess I didn't play Power Stone 1, so I can't vouch for that. But Power Stone 2 shows its age a little bit, but it still absolutely slaps. And it immediately transported me back to being on my couch, like my early years in high school, sitting on the couch with 3 friends playing, the 4-player madness that exists in that game. And, the Capcom vs. SNK games are phenomenal as well. So
absolutely.
Look forward to that if you're a 2D or even an early 3D fighting game fan. But we are going to take our first break of this episode. And when we return, we will be breaking down all the Mario Kart World news out of this Nintendo Direct. We will be right back. We are back, and this week brought us the highly anticipated Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct. This video gave us 15 minutes of Mario Kart World news and footage, and as I covered in a previous episode, it was heavily implied that this Direct would give us more justification for why this game costs $80. Seth, you are the senior social commerce producer at IGN. Did this Direct accomplish that mission of justifying this high price tag?
Well, here's the problem. Value is wholly subjective. It is the cornerstone of most modern economics. You cannot tell somebody who doesn't think that this game is worth $80 that it is worth $80 and have them believe you. No matter how many features you put out there, people have decided in their heart of hearts that $70 is the most they're going to pay for a game. Were some minds changed? Certainly, some people saw this and said, yeah, okay, I get it now. But at the end of the day, if you don't believe something should cost $80, you're not going to spend $80 on it. How do I feel? I'm fine. I mean, $79.99 sucks, but I also used to pay. I think for Final Fantasy 2 for Super Nintendo, I think I paid $84 and then like 15 for shipping, and that was back in 1993 or 4 when I was in high school and had to buy it with my own money. So it sucks, but that's what the price is. I kind of get it. I mean, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the best-selling Switch game by far. And so they're looking at their demand curve. They're looking at their supply curve. And where they cross, that's where they decided they're going to try to make the price. Will it work for them? That remains to be seen. But it's a pack-in. It's $50 if you buy it as a pack-in, which is actually a really awesome deal. And they said that pack-in is going to be around till the fall. So Black Friday, is this what their bundle is going to be? A Mario Kart bundle? Who could have seen such a thing coming?
So I looked it up because I was curious, where does Mario Kart 8 Deluxe rank in the all-time sales? And it is number 5. It is the 5th best-selling video game ever.
Well, okay, yeah. See, that's what Nintendo was looking at. They're like, we've sold, yeah. But I mentioned this on NBC. They did the same thing with the success of the DS. They said, we can charge $249 for the 3DS because everybody wants. And then they had to turn around and drop the price on that and give everybody free video games.
I made that exact comparison on Gamerhead's podcast last night we recorded, and I even pointed that out. I was like, you know what? This might be a 3DS situation where they like get a little ahead of their skis. Yep. We'll see. And I also made that same comparison you made last segment about the fact that the Nintendo and Super Nintendo are kind of just like more powerful. So yeah, great. We're really parallel thinking here.
We're on the vibe, dude.
We like it. We should have done this a long time ago.
I know, what the hell.
Instead of just being in like obscure like funny group chats on Twitter, we could have been doing podcasts.
I know. You know what's crazy? This is only you're actually the first industry person that's invited me on their podcast. Logan had me on his podcast, but before he was like at IGN. So you're actually the first industry person to ever have me on on a podcast. So I thank you for that.
That is wild.
And I'm having a great time too.
And we go way back. I know it should have happened sooner. I will take the blame for that. It should have happened years ago.
It's all good. We've known each other for like 8 years, and we met one time for like 5 minutes in real life.
That's how relationships work.
That's true.
On like now that social media exists, like there are so many friends that I consider like extremely close, and I've maybe met them once in person or not at all.
Yeah, I ran a business in like 2016, making enamel pins with my friend Matt, who I still have not met in real life. We play Call of Duty. He's a beef lord. We play Call of Duty every year. I still have not met Matt in real life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've done that exact same thing with people that I've co-founded websites with, where it's like, oh yeah, I've never met this person, or I meet them 8 years after we went into business together.
It's crazy.
But let's get into Mario Kart World.
Yes,
people aren't here to hear us like wax poetic about the good old
true.
days or social media or whatever. They're here to talk about Mario Kart World. And so we got the mode rundown. We already knew about Grand Prix. They kind of confirmed there are 7 cups. There's Mushroom, Flower, Star, Shell, Banana, Leaf, and Lightning Cup. And then there was a tease that if you beat all of them, you'll unlock Rainbow Road, or more likely
they said a colorful road that you might be familiar with.
Get out of here. More likely it will be the full special cup. That's my guess. Because like, why would they just have Rainbow Road be its own thing? Yeah, that was very like, oh, you might unlock a colorful course. It's like, I wonder what that could be. Knockout Tour. I got to play this at the Switch 2 thing. Very fun. Elimination style racing thing with 24 players. Absolute chaos at first. Absolute chaos throughout. I told the story about how I was like in first place, and then a blue shell hit me, as it tends to do when you're in first place. Then I got hit by like a red shell, then a bullet bill, then another red shell, and then I got eliminated because I was 13th when you needed to be 12th or better. But this was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to play more of that. Knockout Tour. Those are the two like kind of flagship modes. Then there's also time trials where you race against ghosts online. If you connect, you can do that. Otherwise, you just post your best score. It looks like you start with the 3 mushrooms that you have in the past, and then you have to kind of be judicious about using them, like when you really need them in the race or in the time trial. Versus Race seems like it's getting an upgrade. So 24 players, including real and com racers, can join this. You can select the course you want. You can do the traditional 3-lap format, or you can even just be like, okay, well, for this race, we're going to race from one course to another. The rule set is also fully customizable, so you can select what class you want to race. So like 50cc, 100cc, 150cc. Split the 24 drivers into up to 4 teams. Select or restrict specific items. Designate the com driver difficulty, and choose how many races you want in the series. And then I breathed a sigh of relief when they put out battle mode. That has always been one of my favorite modes. And Mario Kart 8 Vanilla on Wii U just completely destroyed this mode.
Yeah.
And then they remedied it with 8 Deluxe, thankfully. This one seems a little bit more in line with 8 Deluxe. So it's like more of a traditional battle mode, not just like, hey, you can drive forward or backwards on this like race course. That sucked. But thankfully, this seems to be more in line with 8 Deluxe, which is a very good battle mode. They only have 2 modes in battle mode, it seems. There's Balloon Battle, which is the traditional, like, you have balloons on the back of your cart. Each time you get hit, you lose one. And then if you run out of balloons, you're out. And then Coin Runners, where your objective is to collect as many coins as possible while attacking your opponents to make sure that they cannot collect more coins. We'll get into free roam in a second, but of those modes, which are you most excited to enjoy?
Probably just Grand Prix. I'm pretty simple. I just like the racing. I don't know why, but battle mode never really. I think I just never had a friend group that did it. So while I appreciate it and I do have fun when I do, it's not like something that I'm really excited about. I just like racing. I love multiplayer Mario Kart, obviously, like that's kind of the whole point of it. But I also have always enjoyed just like grinding through the classes, go 50cc, 100cc, 150cc, getting all the, getting first in all the races and just, making that game bow down and kiss my feet. That's where I'm at with that. So yeah, that's what I'll probably spend the most time. Although free roam, that also is very exciting to me as well, because they didn't really. I mean, they kind of, yeah, you can do it, but there's a P switch. What does that mean? And that sort of thing. But I saw somebody online saying like they got like captured by a UFO when they were racing. And
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and like, nobody else could replicate it. Yeah, so like I'm really looking forward to like sort of the other secrets that they have when you're just out, cruising around. I mean, I'm thinking that probably the free roam probably has some character unlocks involved with it too. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Were all those characters available like at the start, or did it seem like they were already unlocked? Or
it seemed like most of them, if not all of them, were unlocked in the build that I was playing. But then again, like maybe the build I was playing had like 25 hours of gameplay already under its belt or something. I mean, it's hard to say. They just kind of like loaded us into this build. But let's get into free roam here. So I got to drive around quite a bit in free roam when I was playing it back in New York. I didn't have any UFOs abduct me. I did drop down into like a ravine and the car transforms into like a boat. And then like you're able to like cruise around on that. I found like a star down there, which, it wasn't like a Mario 64 star that gives you anything cool. It was just like gives you the invincibility. And then like I also found a stack of coins. I don't know if that means that there's going to be like coins to collect to like buy stuff in the game or whatever. But like all that seemed fine driving around, exploring. I found like a bouncy flower that like had me like shooting up in the air when I like drove on it. Nice. So some cool stuff there, but the stuff they got into in this direct made it seem like it's a lot more robust than I was even thinking that it would be. So the P switch activates challenges, and according to this direct, there are hundreds.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Hundreds. So like the 2 that they showed off was like one where it's like, okay, well, there's like 3 rails or 4 rails, and you have to like bounce back and forth between them, collecting blue coins as you go across. So that's pretty straightforward. And by the way, I've talked about this in past episodes. It's much less Tony Hawk grinding and much more like Sonic Adventure 2 grinding.
Okay.
So like you're going, you just kind of like lean your stick and press the button, and you'll jump over to the other one. Like, and you'll like clack down automatically instead of like having to like.
There's no balance meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it felt more Sonic than Tony Hawk, which I never thought I would say that sentence before in my life. But there was another one where it was like you had to get to like a specific goal. Like you activated the P switch and it showed like Waluigi like going through a canyon. And there's like rocks and boulders rolling towards me. You had to avoid those and like get to a goal before the time expired. So you can free roam with friends, you can free roam alone, you can access photo mode at any time. There were also like collectibles, which as a DK64 fan, I'm sure you're excited about.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
There was like a Peach medallion. There
Yep.
was like panels that you had to activate. Like there was like a question mark
Yeah.
panel, and I don't know like what those end up doing. Maybe it's another currency that you collect, the medallions. Maybe it's just like kind of like the unlock system. Maybe like once you collect a set number of medallions, there's that. There's also the food that you can
Yes.
get, where it's like if you get food, it's like based on the region that you're in. So like if you're in like a Japan themed region, like it might be like sushi or curry or something like that, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And then it transforms you into a costume based on that region. So like when I was playing at in New York, there was like a mariachi Waluigi, which was
Oh my
incredible.
God.
So
The
like
biggest tweet, or excuse me, the biggest Instagram post I think of the last month on IGN deals was I just put Mariachi Waluigi confirmed, and it got like, yeah.
I saw that. That was you. Okay, great. That's
Yep.
now we know the origin of the genius. But yeah, I took a picture of Mariachi Waluigi, and I went to go take a picture, and they were just like, "Oh, well, you got to have like something in the foreground. It can't
Oh,
just be
right,
like."
right, right.
So I put my finger just pointing directly at Mariachi Waluigi. But then there's also multiplayer modes. So up to 4 players split screen, up to 8 players on local wireless with a max
Which is
of 2 players
awesome.
per system, and up to 24 players online with a max of 2 players per system. And then you can do free roam while you wait in the lobby. And while you're in that, like you can open up the map and see where everybody is in the free roam. And if you select them on the map, you can warp immediately to them, which is really cool. And then if you have the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, you can see each other's faces over the characters they're using. So like if Luigi like hits you with a shell and speeds past you, it will show like their face. So you can immediately be like, you're not like, who's playing Luigi and hit me with the shell? It's like, no, that's Jonathan that just hit me with that shell. I'm gonna get him. And then like you can also see the reaction in real time. So if like you nuke
Yeah.
somebody with a blue shell, you can see like the pure hatred in their eyes in real time. How are you feeling about the free roam situation and the multiplayer?
The multiplayer, I mean, like that's kind of where the most fun is had in Mario Kart for sure. I mean, just goofing around with your friends. The I do like the free roam aspect of it. It makes it feel more like I don't know, like a hub kind of. Oh, it kind of makes it feel like Forza Horizon 5. Just having your friends, but actually having your friends. I remember when Horizon came out, and I asked one of my friends, like, "Oh, I didn't know you were playing." He's like, "Oh, I played like one time, and that's just
The
like a ghost."
Drivatar.
Yeah, the Drivatar. Oh my God, I forgot about that. But yeah, I think that'll be like super fun. I really like the idea. Like, I don't think anyone will ever do it, where they showed like all 8 players like lined up to take a picture in front of the billboard for the original 16-bit
That was a cool
Mario
shot.
Kart. Yeah, that was awesome. And like, yeah, I think that's just gonna be fun. I think for like kids, that's gonna be the most fun. You know, like kids playing with their cousins or their friends or whatever who maybe live far away, and just like jumping on and making faces at each other and like screaming and having a good time. For adults like me, yeah, you know, I'm a bit of a loner, so I'll probably just
I've always said you're a
go on.
lone wolf.
That's true. I'm a loner, Dottie, a rebel. So, yeah, no, I think it's really cool. It's something that I'm really glad Nintendo is doing, and I feel very good about kind of Mario Kart World. I mean, I felt great anyway, but like this direct, I was like just looking all around the screen, just being like, "Oh my God, like wow, look at how gorgeous it looks." I mean, and I didn't even get to play it. I had to watch it on my damn computer like a bum.
I saw a lot of takes that were like, this was unnecessary. This could have just been like in the Switch 2 reveal, like add like 3 minutes to it, and you would have had like all the stuff. You would have had enough time to show anything new that they showed in this. I had that take originally, where I was just like, that was kind of underwhelming. But then once you go back and start scrubbing through like the images, and like every single shot had so much density
Yeah,
to it, and you could like glean so much from any given shot of like, oh, look what that character's doing back there, or oh, I wonder what's up there in that like part of the open world. Like there is so much that I'm excited to explore with this game.
yeah, yep. I'm the same. I am really looking forward to this.
So I want to throw out here, and you're welcome to join us as well, Seth, but anybody who is involved in the All Things Nintendo Patreon or on the community Discord, I'm planning on hosting a Mario Kart World community night
Oh,
where we're
hell
going to get
yeah.
people together. We're going to free roam. We're gonna do some Grand Prix. We're gonna do some versus races, some battle mode. I mean, man, how many people can be in battle mode? I don't think they said that.
Oh, yeah. No, they didn't, did
I wonder
they?
if they're having bigger like battle mode
It
courses. But
seems
anyway,
like they would, but we'll find out.
everything else is bigger, so I would assume like maybe
Right.
they made the battle mode stuff bigger. But yeah, just want to throw that out there as people start planning their Switch 2 launch plans, because I'd love to do that sometime in June, shortly after the launch. Get some listeners of the All Things Nintendo podcast together to explore Mario Kart World.
Hell yeah.
But we've seen a lot of the characters. We've seen a lot of all the modes that they've told us about so far. One of the big things that people get really excited about for a Mario Kart game are the courses.
Yeah.
And they announced a few of them like by name, but I went back and when I was scrubbing through, I could find mention or shown 25 courses in the direct.
Okay.
But the quick math that I did tells us that it's more likely that there are 32 courses if you count up the 7 cups, four tracks each. Then on top of that, special cup more than likely, so that'll bring us to 32. But each one changes based on the time of day. And then on top of that, there are races that can take place between the courses. So, and there's also the open world itself. So like this could be a lot of content right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense because we haven't gotten a full new Mario Kart game since the Wii U.
I know. Which is so crazy. 13, I guess it's like 14 years old now. Like since we got a new one. I mean,
I want to say
the
12.
expansion pass, how many courses were in that? It's
96.
Like, yeah, that's just, I mean,
It
for all
doubled
intents and purposes,
doubled the tracks
yeah.
in Mario Kart 8.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of did with that, but I'm curious that's one of the things I was thinking of when they were saying like how many courses were in it. I was like, ooh, they're going to do DLC for this.
Almost certainly.
Certainly. Yeah. Just, I don't know how that's going to be, if it's going to be new courses or I don't know, but I don't know. I feel like after having 96 courses, 35 just doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. I don't know. What am I talking about? There's a whole open world. I'm just nitpicking. I'm sorry.
I mean, I said this in like my preview that I wrote at GameInformer.com, my breakdown on this very podcast, where it was like this entire generation of the Switch. I've been wondering how the heck is Nintendo going to top Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Smash Ultimate?
Yeah.
And after seeing this direct, after playing the game, it really feels like they have figured it out, at least on the Mario Kart side.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to top Smash Ultimate, because that's an entirely different beast. At least Mario Kart, they could be like, all right, we're going to change the structure of the game. We're going to give you these costumes that like, are unlockable as you explore and all this other stuff. Like, it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff in the open world. That feels substantial. Also, boosting it up to 24 players feels like a big leap forward. I still have no idea how they're going to beat Smash Ultimate.
No. What I love is that everyone had been sort of, not everyone, but people have been sort of asking for like a Nintendo Kart instead of a Mario Kart. And we sort of got that with like Link in Mario Kart 8. But I love that they like didn't even double, they like quadrupled down on Mario. So you get the most obscure Mario characters now. Like every Mario character is in Mario Kart. So like that for me, I never really liked the idea of a Nintendo Kart. I always just wanted it to be Mario with maybe some guest appearances. And the fact that they like went in so deep, they put the cow in, who, by the way, I thought those were just called moo-moos. I did not know that they were like cows like we have here in the real world, in the meat space. So I learned something every day.
I appreciate that the cow is just named Cow.
Yeah. I mean, it's very nice. It's very funny, but I thought it was a moo-moo. I might have made a graphic to that effect, but people were so excited about the cow being in there, they didn't even care.
I saw when I was looking through like the comments, because the first thing I do when I open up a stream or a Nintendo Direct is I close the chat, because I do not want any of that.
Yeah.
But I was looking through the comments to see like after the fact what people's thoughts were, and they were like, the entire time people were chanting drop the price, which has become a meme in and of itself.
Yep.
And they said the only time that changed was when the cow was on the screen and everybody changed their chant to cow.
He's the chicken jockey of Mario Kart World.
It is it's a phenomenon having the cow in there, but there's some other really obscure characters. Like to your point, like there are a
Yeah,
ton of characters. It's like really we're getting Wiggler back in like
yeah,
we're getting like what's the crab's name?
uh,
Uh,
just crab.
okay, yeah. I mean the one is called cow, so why not call it crab?
Yeah, when
Sidestepper maybe, I don't know.
oh yeah, I think you're right. When I was talking, we were talking about on NBC. Like I said, oh, I hope they bring back the guy in the football helmet and pads who throws baseballs for some reason. And Logan's like, oh, blah blah
Charge
blah.
and
Yeah,
Chuck.
he's in there. Yeah. So that was they went deep, and I haven't like gone through and scrubbed, but I do remember like kind of peripherally seeing characters and being like, wait a minute, was that? And so now I have to go back and like look at all of them and see what's in there. But it's pretty awesome. Do we have a an official count of how many characters there are? I mean, know
I
that
don't
we've
think so.
yeah, people have done like they just counted them off the screens from the presentation, but yeah, I'm really interested to see how deep they go. I am fingers crossed that we see the return of Wart, who we have not
Oh
seen
my
since
god, yes.
Super Mario Brothers 2, which to be fair, Wart was only hold on a second now. Wait a minute.
Was he in
That whole
Mario Kart
game was
Tour?
no I was just say that Super Mario 2 was all a dream, but Birdo has been in multiple
Shy
Mario
Guy.
Karts. Shy Guy also. There it is. So will Wart come back, please?
By the
Now.
way, I just want to say that you are very wrong that he has only appeared in Super Mario Brothers 2. I just looked Wart's Mario wiki page up.
Oh, hell yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 2,
Okay.
Super Mario Brothers Pinball, he makes a cameo, I guess.
Okay.
Super Mario All-Stars, obviously, that doesn't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Super Mario Advance doesn't count either. He's mentioned in Mario Superstar Baseball. He's mentioned in Super Paper Mario. He appears. I mean, okay, all these are just like NES Remix. That doesn't count. Paper Mario Color Splash. He's mentioned. Apparently, he makes a cameo in Smash Ultimate. Appears in Mario Maker 2, and then okay, so yeah, mostly remakes, and then like the cameo fests he appears. But yeah, in terms of like actual like mainline stuff, I mean, I guess he's mentioned in Paper Mario. Sure. I don't know the capacity of that.
No, I don't know either. It's probably like a fourth wall breaking joke of some kind, or self-referential humor, as is their want. But
I was so ready to stick it to you there. Like, no, you're wrong, you fake Nintendo fan. But we also got a look at some of the items coming back and being introduced in Mario Kart World. So the ones that are coming back include the Mega Mushroom, which I did get to see, and the hammer, which is very difficult to use, but I didn't know that it sticks in the ground, which is cool. So like you throw it, it has a kind of like an arc, like a Hammer Brothers throw, but then it lands in the ground and just becomes an obstacle for a little bit, which is really cool. Yeah. And then there's the feather, which lets you jump really high. That should come in handy with like the grinding and everything. Yeah. But there's a new Kamek item that puts Kamek up in the air and then causes him to like, you know, cast a spell on the entire race. And the footage in the direct showed him temporarily turning all the other racers into Charge and Chuck.
Yeah.
Which, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. That's a cool thing that probably couldn't happen on the Switch 1 because, you know, that's probably takes some loading time to bring in a new character model for everybody. Yeah. I don't know. We saw an item that I got to play with a couple of weeks ago in the coin shell, which you throw it and then it leaves like a trail of coins behind you. And then also the ice flower, which freezes your target. Yeah.
Are the I'm assuming it's kind of like a Mario Kart thing now. So you need to collect coins to reach your top speed, or is that no? I mean, I'm thinking that must be why the coin shell is there.
I think so. Like I'm pretty sure like that's still the mechanic, but like they're also changing like the physics of the game and everything. And the camera, when you drift, it swings down real low, like to get kind of like cinematic, which is kind of cool. It gives you a better speed. Yeah, I mean they are changing some things as like to the core formula, but not. I would bet that the coins still do that. Otherwise, maybe they're just like, again, currency that you can buy stuff. And speaking of stuff that you can unlock, that we got that look at Dash Food, which, you know, the food actually looks surprisingly tasty, which I never thought I would say about a Mario Kart game.
I felt the same way when Princess Peach had like 3 like sushi dishes going around her. I was like, they did it again. It's like Tomodachi Life. The food in that looks so amazing. Nintendo just has a knack. Like the Pikmin series, the fruit looks incredible. They just did it again. They do not mess around with the fruit. So yeah, that looks awesome too.
And then they also showed off a charge jump, which seems honestly like the best way to get to like a wall ride or a grinding situation. And then apparently it also looks like it gives you like a small boost forward when you do a charge jump, which is kind of cool. And then finally, speaking of Forza Horizon, they added a rewind system.
Yes, I did not expect that.
Yeah, well, at first I was like, okay, so it's just like that. Like it's kind of like the elimination of Knockout Tour, where it's like just kind of taken wholesale from another racing game. But then they were like, oh, but be careful because everybody else continues going forward in real time, whereas you're the only one going backwards.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really careful about using it. Like it has to be like a catastrophic mess up for you to like want to rewind enough to like you must have like fallen off like the ledge and like not like kind of Wario Stadium and Mario Kart 64 style where it's like, oh, I missed the jump and now I have to do like half of the lap all over again. So Seth, wrapping up here, what is your overall hype level for Mario Kart World at this point in time?
I'm pretty much pegged at 10 now. Like I was very excited, but seeing it and then just like my eyes just having so many places to look. So it looks, first of all, it looks beautiful. It just is so colorful. It has so much charm. It's something that Nintendo has that no one else bothers to have. They have this sort of sense of animation of their characters in like a classical cartoon sense that makes them feel like they have weight and character and life to them. That I think the reason that there are no other, I mean, like there's so many other mascot kart racers, but no one cares. I mean, yeah, somebody will say that they love Crash Bandicoot racing, fine, that's whatever. But the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say like artistry, but the sort of the crafting of every single part of the Mario Kart franchise and the Nintendo just property as a whole. It's just so charming and it looks so fun. And it just looks like there's a million things to do at any given moment. And I mean, if you don't feel like that, you could just race by yourself or with your friends. Like at the end of the day, it's still a Mario Kart game. They've nailed that. They've completely locked it in on with the deluxe. So like I am so very excited. I'm hoping that I'm able to when the pre-orders go live
whenever
eventually I'm hoping I can grab the one that has the digital code for the Mario Kart. And I think that's what everybody's going to go for actually, because like
this $30.
I think this is gonna I think coming out in June is kind of genius because the early adopters are going to get it. And then the kids of parents who maybe don't play video games are going to spend their summer vacation playing this with their friends. And then come Christmas time, this is what everyone is going to want. They're going, Mom, Dad, I want Nintendo Switch 2 with Mario Kart World. If you don't get that for me, you don't truly love me. And there's going to be a lot of hard conversations to be had. But yeah, I'm extremely excited for Mario Kart World. Total believer, 100%. And I can't wait to see what that colorful track is that we may be familiar with.
Yeah, what could it possibly be? Well, as you'd indicated, Mario Kart World arrives on Nintendo Switch 2 alongside the system on June 5th. Seth, we are going to take one final break this episode, and when we get back, we will do definitive ranking and get your eShop gem of the week. We will be right back. We are back, and it's time for Definitive Ranking, a recurring segment where we take a Nintendo topic and give our own personal top 5 lists. Since the main event of this week was Mario Kart World's Nintendo Direct, Seth, this week, I want to get your top 5 Mario Kart games of all time.
All
right. The way it works, you're going to start at 5, count it down to 1, give me a quick sentence or two about each.
All right. So at number 5, and also, if you ask me again tomorrow, my list order might be changed. So
same.
But number 5, Super Mario Kart, Super Nintendo, Mode 7 scrolling, what a fun game. What a cool concept at the time. We get to race around tracks with Nintendo characters. It was super fun. We played it all the time, our friend group back in the day. So that is my number 5. Number 4, Mario Kart DS is one of my favorite personally because I bought the like special edition Mario Kart DS Fat, like the red one that came with a little like Mario Kart wrist strap. And it was one of the first online gaming experiences I actually had. And not only was that like one of the first, I was also surprised that it worked as well as it did. Eventually the cheating, or not cheating, but what's the mechanic that everyone learned to exploit?
Oh, the kind of like the assist.
Yeah, where you could boost like eternally and you could just win someone out there screaming into their headphones right now because they know what it's called. And I'm completely forgetting. So I'm sorry, but Mario Kart DS, that's number 4. Number 3, Mario Kart 64. It came out when I was like 22. So my friend Craig had one of those rear projection TVs in his dorm room when I was in the Air Force. And we used to go there. We would pregame Mario Kart 64 before we would go to the bar. And sometimes, more than once, it happened where the bar was closed by the time we were done playing Mario Kart 64. And this was in Germany. So that was some late night Mario Kart. There'd be like 8, 10, 12 of us just in a room screaming, having fun, passing the controller back. Next one.
It's funny that you would say that though, because I've actually gone to a bar in Germany and played Mario Kart in that bar.
Somebody figured it out. There's a business model there.
They heard about the legend of Seth Macy going too late in Mario Kart 64.
There's 12 guys that we could have here paying to drink beers, but they're at their dorm room. We should just bring the Mario Kart in here. So, well, there it is. My next one, Mario Kart Double Dash. I don't know what it is about Double Dash that I love so much. Maybe it was just like another thing where it came out at the right time in my life. But I just loved switching. This just felt right when you just switch your characters from driving.
It's wild they've never brought it back.
It is crazy to me, and I bet we see that come onto the GameCube emulation eventually. But that's my number 2, and like number 1, like come on, it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like it couldn't possibly be any other thing. It's the perfect realization of the Mario Kart promise until Mario Kart World comes out, hopefully.
That's my hope too. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, it's a high bar, like making my list. And it's funny because our lists are exactly the same, except for one entry.
Ooh.
So, but yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is going to be very difficult to top. Mario Kart World, I mean, maybe it tops it. I don't know. Like what I've seen so far is promising.
Okay.
We're going to have to see where it lands. Number 5, Super Mario Kart. So, I've talked about at length about how this is a very special game to me. My dad would travel a lot for work. He would come home Thursday night and then leave like Sunday evening, I think was like the schedule. So he could get there and work on site from like Monday to Thursday in whatever city he was working in. When he was home, we would bond by playing Super Nintendo. So it was either Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Country, or Super Mario Kart. And Mario Kart was the one that we really took to until Donkey Kong Country like stole our lives away, basically. Number 4, this is the one where we differ. I said Mario Kart 7 instead of Mario Kart DS.
Oh, okay.
So still a DS entry, but 3DS instead of OG DS.
Yeah.
But Mario Kart 7, I don't know. It was just a super solid. I think it's easily the most, the closest to a console Mario Kart in a handheld, like a dedicated handheld game. I always remember being so disappointed by Super Circuit on Game Boy Advance. And I think so much so that I didn't really give DS like a fair shot. But then when Mario Kart 7 came out, it looked so good that I was like, well, let me try that. And I was just blown away by how far the series had come on the handheld side.
I almost put it on my list, but I was like, I don't really have a lot of fond memories tied to that one.
It's fair.
So I was like, well, it's solid. It's fine. But I kind of went with like the vibes on this one. Like the memories is where I landed for this.
So. Number 3, Mario Kart 64.
Let's go.
Similar reasons. I remember staying up with friends until the sun came up, playing are Nintendo 64s, and Mario Kart 64 was often one of the 3 games in rotation alongside like Star Fox 64 and GoldenEye. Like those were like the 3 games that we just played until the sun came up, and we're like, oh, we're going to be really tired tomorrow. Number 2, Double Dash, for all the reasons you've said, where it's just immaculately designed courses, a great character roster. The character switching mechanic is still, I think, the best gimmick in Mario Kart history.
Yeah.
And then number 1.
And that was the first with the double blocks too, obviously, right?
I think so. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, obvious number 1 choice. I did pose this question to the All Things Nintendo community Discord. Let's see if I can bring this up here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Only a few people have answered so far because I threw it up last minute. But we have one person who is vouching for Double Dash, DS, Wii, 8 Deluxe at number 4, and then number 5, 7. And then another person saying 8 Deluxe is number 1, 64 number 2. So that was Mad Genie, Confused Koala, and Aggro Krog that responded. And then Disco Stew says, it's hard for me, especially from DS on, I think of each entry as building on and expanding on the previous, with 8 being sort of the culmination of the formula, which, that's fair. And I think that's why World is so intriguing, is because it is breaking up that like just kind of iterative building on the last entry. This is like an all new type of game now.
Yeah. So. Is World going to be the Mario Kart Breath of the Wild?
Oh, honestly, there are parallels you could draw.
Yeah.
But Seth, that brings us to our final segment of the show. It's the eShop Gem of the Week, a chance for you to give some shine to a game that we might not otherwise cover. What is your eShop Gem of the Week?
My eShop Gem of the Week is one I have talked about at length on many other shows before. It is called Boomerang X. I don't remember if I got a code for this or if something about it looked intriguing to me, but I played it and I immediately wrote to Dan Stapleton, who's the reviews editor at IGN. I was like, would you care if I wrote a review? And he's always like, the more reviews, the better, dude. Just like give it. So I gave it an 8, and I loved this game. It is it's a first person sort of platformer, puzzly, weird game. It kind of gave me some Metroid Prime vibes a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're throwing this boomerang, which is it's actually like a 5 pointed glaive, I believe. Some crawl vibes out of it, but you have to eliminate enemies in like certain orders or certain ways to figure out so you can move on to the next one. It is super fun. It's super clean. The movement is amazing. It's not a very long game, so you can kind of just sit down and play it probably in like an afternoon or like an evening if you're gonna stay up a little bit later. Sadly, the studio that made this game has shut down since.
Oh no.
But I definitely highly recommend Boomerang X. It is so fun. It is so cool. It's so interesting, and it's not really like anything else out there. I think you should absolutely check that one out.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the footage. The boomerang in question almost reminds me, I don't know if you ever, this is going to be a little bit of a pull here. Did you ever play Rage?
No, I did not.
So there's a weapon on that called the wing stick, which is basically a boomerang, and you throw it and it like hits enemies. It is so satisfying to throw. It became like one of my favorite first person shooter weapons. And this looks a lot like that in terms of like how satisfying it looks to throw. I haven't played it yet, but like I was watching the trailer before we jumped on here, and
I'm selling it short because there's more to it that I've just forgotten as far as mechanics are. But like, I just go do yourself a favor. This I believe it's like a $9.99 game, but maybe I'm wrong.
$20.
Oh, that's a bummer. I still say
it probably goes on sale pretty frequently.
Yeah, I would still say for $20, it's a very fun time, and then it's sort of one of those things where you can go back and just replay it again. And it's really cool. It's such an interesting game, such a good concept, and I wish that we saw more of it. So,
well, it came to Switch in 2021. Unfortunately, like you said, the studio is no longer with us, but at least they gave us a game that sounds like a bit of a banger.
It's awesome.
So, Seth, thanks so much for joining me for this episode of All Things Nintendo.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much to everyone for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get any questions or comments in, but you can also get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or hit me up on Blue Sky or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. That is also my YouTube channel name, and if you would subscribe to it, it would help out a lot. Seth, what do you have to plug, and where can people find you online?
Oh my God. Well, you can find me on TikTok at Major_BeefLord. You can find me on X, Seth from Maine. You can find me on Instagram, Seth G. Macy. You can find me on IGN.com, doing all kinds of fun things. Oh my God, if anybody out there is going to be at PAX East this year in Boston in May, come say hi. I'm going to be there doing a bunch of video stuff. It's going to be awesome. PAX East, one of my favorite things that I've done. I have not missed a PAX East since 2011. And I used to pay my own way, and now work pays me to go there and hang out. So if you see me there, say hello. I would be more than happy to chat for a second. Unless I'm in the middle of a shoot. We'll wait on that one.
Fun fact, PAX East 2011 was my first ever major gaming convention.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. So we another thing we share in common. But that is our show for this week. Thank you again so much for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Before we wrap up this episode of All Things Nintendo, I just want to give a special shout out to the $10 patrons to the show. Adam Scott, Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Chaps My Ass, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jackal, Jason Thompson, Jawar Hello, Jill Grote, Johnny Five, Jordan Sloat, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, Cody Gibson, Creeper 207, Mad Genie Confused Koala, Megan S., Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichart, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, and Zek 3 Swords Sama. Thank you all so much for continuing to support this show.